So the last exercise, and this will create another winning table. For this last exercise, we're going to make what I call a quick future edit. So I'm really passionate about how conversations and questions change the long tail and the course of trajectory, right? The idea that you can have a conversation with somebody and it nudges them 2 degrees or that shifts their perspective, and then 30 years later they're in a totally different career path because of this one chat that they had with somebody 20 years ago. If I asked you and really traced back, why are you here right now in the current career that you're in, you could probably map it by a series of conversations either with yourself or with people. And so I think it's kind of cool to map a journey like that because it means that that's also how you create your future. A series of conversations. You just don't know what might happen. So the long tail's cool, but what's equally useful and is a really great energizer and kind of way to end a meeting is to think about just changing the next 15 minutes. So in a minute, we're going to actually take a break. And usually breaks look like we chat with whoever is next to us by happenstance, or we take out our phones and go down the cortisol pathway and get stressed out before coming back in. And I love the idea of a take what you need break. And so what I want you to do, and this is where you have a chance to win, as quickly as possible when I say go, I want you to flip over every card on your table. Ready, set, go. Oh, it's over here. I only have 3 left, so you're going to have to share.
I already got one.
You already got one? Okay. Did you all already get one? No, you didn't get one.
Oh,
Okay, you got 3. That works. Okay, so this language, this activity was actually created yesterday in my team meeting with my staff. And I realized we got to the end, it was like a longer than intended Zoom meeting, and we were all like, woo, there's a lot of LCD screens going on. And so I paused and I decided we need to interrupt what happens in the next 15 minutes. And so I said, we're going to get off Zoom. What would your absolute ideal next 15 minutes look like? And that's how we close out the meeting. Everybody just shared what their ideal next 15 minutes look like. Mine was plug in headphones, EDM blaring, and walk down the street to the farthest coffee shop. And that's what I did in 15 minutes. It changed my future in that 15 minutes. And so what I'd love for you to do is, as inspiration for what you want to have happen in the next 15 minutes, choose a word off of your table to serve as kind of the theme for what you'd love to happen in the next 15 minutes. And then just share with the person next to you what you would most ideally love to happen in the next 15 minutes. Ready, set, go. Typically, if you go back to college, a professor would end class and say, any questions? And that's the worst way somebody could ever end a class. Because guess what? The brain needs more than 2 seconds to convert 45 minutes of content into a sentence that ends in a question mark, then decide to build the courage to publicly speak, and then tell your arm to raise your hand so that you can ask the question. And so really, any question just means the sound of zipping backpacks. And so I'd love to give you, now the cool thing is, questions really only take about 5 to 10 seconds to formulate. So I'd love to give you 5 to 10 seconds just to tap into, from your time here, what are you naturally, genuinely curious about? And then we'll just do lightning round for 3-4 questions, and then I'll set you free to do whatever you want. All right? So 5 seconds, and then AJ's going first.
So, half joking, you said you get on an airplane and somebody asks you what you do, and you say, half my job is starting conversations, the other half's ending it. So we focused on starting conversations today. I'm curious, how do you end a conversation?
Oh, man. Okay. I had, when we first moved to Pittsburgh, I had a neighbor named Jim who was like the most quirky person I've ever met. He was 75 years old, lived alone, had no surviving relatives. And when my door opened, we lived relatively close to each other over in Mount Lebanon. When my door opened, his door immediately opened. And over the course of the first 2 years that we lived here, I calculated roughly that we had 200 conversations, and he never ended a single one of them. So I got pretty good at ending conversations. By the end, it would just be like, gotta go, Jim, and say that. But I would say one of the things that a lot of my work focuses on that I didn't focus super heavily on today is the most compelling way to create conversations that matter is to get really clear about your intention stretch it so that it actually includes the needs of the other, and then share that intention with them. So if your intention is to leave, you got to wrap up. Think about how you can wrap up in a way that might actually serve them, right? So the intention stretches to include their needs, what they care about, and then share that intention with them. And the reason that's so powerful is oftentimes we have intentions that affect other people, and very rarely do we actually clue them in to those intentions. And so when we have intentions that affect other people, and we don't invite them in, I would argue that that is manipulation. It's trying to get somebody to do something without inviting them to play the same game that you are. And so if I want to end a conversation and stretch to include the needs of the others, first of all, it's going to be very context-based, but we're in a conversation. And so I might say, hey, I would love to continue this afterward and find out kind of the source of that curiosity and go into that. And for the benefit of the group, let's wrap now so that we can have a more focused one-on-one 5 minutes from now. Super clear about my intention, direct, close it down, but also allowed to kind of serve that currency that you were looking for, maybe.
That sounded like you, AJ. I swear. You just closed me down. Oh my goodness.
Cool. Couple others? Yeah.
I have a quick question. Do the colors on the deck mean anything? The colors on the cards?
They do. So, and there's like some serious philosophy behind it, but the questions are color-coded by kind of framed in possibility questions. So bigger thinking, dream, what's something you'd do if you could start a whole new career? What would it look like? Possibility questions, more expansive. And then they narrow down into process questions that start to get a little bit closer to like, okay, but what might that look like? And then the third category is practical questions, like what are you gonna do tomorrow? They get really like specific and honed in. And the way that I came to those three is that I looked at kind of the map of all the conversations that edited my life in some way. And they had kind of this funnel that went down there where we started with some sort of a vision, purpose, direction. And then we got a little bit more tactical, and then we got really tactical, what are you going to do tomorrow level.
There you go.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 2025 is the year of learning. What are some of the things that you already want to learn?
Ooh, how about at break to honor everybody's time, I pull up my learn list and scroll through it with you. Cool.
That was a good end to the conversation.
Yeah.
You mentioned at one point playing it safe. We do that because it feels easy, it feels safe. So how did you begin to practice, I guess, not playing it safe? So how do I get to a point playing it safe and then I am at the bus stop asking the person what brings me joy about their commute?
Yeah, okay. First, can you just text Bill and tell him we need another hour and a half real quick? The short answer to that, because I want to give you a break, is when I met my co-founder and co-author Will Wise, he was actually an instructor of mine. So I was in this dialogue facilitation class in college. And one of the exercises he gave us, he taught us all the tools that we write about in Ask Powerful Questions, and in a different format. So he taught us these tools, and then he said, I can't teach you this from the classroom though. And so you've got 30 minutes, leave the classroom, go downtown. I went to school at Penn State. Go downtown and build a relationship of trust with 3 strangers using what we just talked about. And you can imagine a bunch of college kids very unhappy with that exercise. And we came back and we had, out of 30 people in the room, there were 90 experiences. And all the epic failures had almost no real deep repercussion. And so I realized it was like this reality set that the perceived risk of being curious and asking more thoughtful, intentional questions is pretty high for most people because we tend to play it safe. Our brains, our amygdala tends to play it safe. But the actual risk is typically pretty low. Do I recommend asking what brings you joy in a dark alley to a stranger wearing a trench coat? No, right? So context matters quite a lot, but the actual risk is typically a lot lower than the perceived risk. And so my real response to you is don't believe anything I said, just try it 3 times and tell me how it goes afterward. Cool.